Hey guys, uh, there's all kinds of places I want to get to. So God, save me from getting to some of them, and protect me from some of the stuff that's been on my mind. Whatever it is you want me to say, help me find it, and help me convey it. Yeah, there was a friend of mine, somebody that I got quite a bit of respect for, told me, just sent me a message, just out of the blue, and she was like, "Hey, I was spending some time with God, and it seemed like He was wanting me to tell you to be aware of the tactics of the enemy." And I knew exactly what that meant for me. Like, as far as terms go, the way Paul used it was primarily about forgiveness, the importance of it, and why we should not be holding grudges. Anyway, I did want to clarify something about this, the stuff I do. It's not geared for teaching so much. It's about sympathizing, kind of. There's plenty of teaching of intellectual, mental things to satisfy you as far as spiritual stuff goes. Lots of messages by, tons of messages by Jim Martin, Dave Roberson, Gary Carpenter, plenty and plenty and plenty of people that all have teaching available. You know what there's a shortage of is unique Christians with a voice that have a platform. So basically, what God was clarifying to me was what I need to do is be one of the people that implements the things being taught by all the people I mentioned in a way that is personal to me as a means of encouragement for other people that just don't fit in church. That's uh, that's the goal here, is to basically be a act as one kind of encouragement or safe haven for people that don't find a home in church, like fitting a square peg in a round hole. It's just no, love God, but there's nobody in church that loves me back just because of who I am. That kind of mentality. There's a lot that I've been wanting to say, and I'm trying not to overstep because I know if I do, well, I don't want to. Did you ever notice in the Gospels how the only people Jesus really hit between the eyes with was the religious ones? He, we talk about how he didn't judge people, and he talked about the importance of not judging and all of that. He talked about the importance of not judging from a perspective of pridefulness. With those people, man, those Pharisees, he shot straight with them. God. there was a couple times mentioned that he'd went into the temple, see what was going on with people and with God, and he'd catch a flea market, more or less, and a cheap ways to attain grace. People already selling animals right there. You screw up, you just go buy one, sacrifice it, you're good to go. Yay! And he got rid of all of that stuff. All of it, drove it out violently. And then the poor and broken, sick, diseased, hopeless came to him in the temple after all that stuff went away. And I can't get away from that theme of division and how there is a Christian civil war of sorts coming, hence division, civil war. I was talking to Pam and Bernard a little while back. And Pam was like, I hear them telling these people in this generation that this is the generation that's going to bring the good Lord Jesus back into this planet. And, however it is people say it. And she was like, I heard that same exact thing when I was that age. And when I was that generation that was going to be the one to usher in Jesus. And, that was something that had been on my mind for a while anyway. And it seems like, I haven't been around quite as long as them. Not that they're old, they're just more seasoned. Right, Bernard? But it seems like, even just with my life before I found out how to get more of God by myself, that it was just about pep talks and a big emotional rally, and then you go home and burn out a week or two later because you can't foster the same kind of environment that you felt when you were with all these other like-minded people. And that's something that just has to change. We can't... Well, yeah, okay. We can use emotions to bring people to a rallying point, and then be like, all right, you want to take the next step with God. Quit consulting your emotions. What they are right now is a hindrance. They're going to do nothing but get in the way. You want more of God, you're going to have to deal with some things in yourself that are not at all pretty. You're going to have to deal with things where you just get over yourself. You think if you check in with how you feel when you're supposed to be getting over yourself, that you're going to keep going in with more of God, that you're going to keep emptying yourself out to make space for more of Him? You're not. And then there's going to be the same big emotional rally next time around, and then next time around, and then next time around. And we're going to break up and go set our towns on fire with revival. And 2 weeks later, just get discouraged again because we don't know how to take that presence and nurture it in our own lives. Jesus talks about where 2 or 3 are gathered in His name, He's right in there with them. So, what about if it's just one person? The Pharisees asked Jesus about that, how He testifies of Himself, so His testimony is not valid. And then Jesus is like, well, hey, God's backing me up here too, and that's 2 of us, so shove it, sirs. And why can't we say the same thing? Hey, it's me and God, man. God's right here with me. We just got to be able to back that up. And that's going to be one big sticking point for this division. You say you're on the right track with God, prove it. Not intellectually. I don't care what you interpret this breakdown of that verse to be. Is this person going to get out of the wheelchair? Is a tumor going to fall off of this person? Can this person be delivered instantly? Go from insanity just to absolute, absolute peace? If not, where's your God? What is He exactly? And as far as me, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know about everybody else, I still got quite a bit more room I need to make in my own self before God can do stuff like that. I'm getting there, but not because I keep consulting my emotions. Sometimes I do, and that take a little break for a while. But again, we can't get so focused on the future that we forget what we're supposed to be doing right now. Well, yes, brother, God's got me in a season of prayer. All right, a season where you just do nothing but separate yourself from anything anybody needs help with, too, where you're just worthless to the world. You just go hide behind the excuse of praying all the time. That is a disgusting, disgusting cop-out just to be lazy. Why does ministry always have to wait until we're big enough to get somebody out of the wheelchair, or we have something to say to the masses? And didn't Jesus say something about not forgetting the orphans and the widows? You do it to the least of these. You've done it to me. Could have sworn I read that somewhere in there. But we get so focused on, God told me to tell you this, and never, God told me to do this for you. And it's something that is not nearly thankless enough. That is sickening. Seems like another, another sticking point for this division. It's going to be with politics. You ever try and apply the same kind of polarizing political spectrums to Jesus' time? You ever wonder if all those religious leaders could be considered neoconservatives? You ever notice how they stuck to their traditions? How they wouldn't waver from what they had been doing for centuries, and what Jesus was doing was cutting through all the crap that they had piled on to God's law, and that was an offense to them. You read what Jesus had to say, what Paul had to say, what John had to say about the end of days, in the latter days, and all of that. You're not going to see a real pretty picture at all. So why are we still so focused on politics, trying to be our savior instead of Jesus? That is something to be a lot more careful of. You think those same people that waved palm branches and sang praises to him as he rode that donkey into Jerusalem. A lot of them weren't the same ones screaming about crucifying him when they realized, hey, this guy's not going to deliver us from Roman rule. What good is he? He can't be the savior. Politics? Huh? Something to be careful of. Real careful of. If it's going to divide your focus and your attention like that and put boundaries and perimeters on the love of God that you're supposed to have without prejudice, be careful of that. Real careful. So, standards. Oh man. I'm still listening to Jim Martin's Days of Jeremiah series, and I just love how he just puts it out there. And he's calling people out without really calling people out. You know, not by name, just by what they're well known for. He's like, hey, you're wrong. I love that about him. Man, you want more of God, it's going to come at your expense and nobody else's. You get that straight. There are no excuses. There are no loopholes, no ways of justifying things. If what you want is more of God, you either want more of God or you don't. And you prove it by what you do, by the decisions you make. I got a season pass for Major League Soccer here in the States. And then I found out that this season pass is only good for games that aren't nationally televised, which like half of my team's games are, and I don't have cable, so I emailed this Major League Soccer, whoever is providing me with this season pass for watching these games, and I tried to be polite and still get my point across without overstepping my bounds and then looking like an idiot, which was good because then they're like, well, we clearly have our blackout policy stated here and here and here and here and here. So I guess I overlooked a couple things. And and then a friend of mine is like, well, hey, you just want my cable internet login for this sports network so you can watch these games? And I thought about it, and I already knew the answer, but I kept thinking about it, hoping the answer would change. And finally, I was like, if I gotta look this hard for a loophole, it's wrong. It's just theft. If I expect God to do anything for me, I gotta quit looking for loopholes like that. And forgiveness, that's a big thing for me too. Like I told you before, last time I think, about how I've been in Philippians and I was supposed to make my gentleness known to all men and be harmless and whatever else Paul said in there. And I mentioned this geriatric sociopath that I just didn't want to be around at all. because you talk to him and he's just fake. He's got like all the time. He has that radio DJ voice where he's always upbeat and enthusiastic, and that's just that's uh, uh, that kind of thing just grates on me. So that was something I've been very little by very little by very little psyching myself up for talking to him about. I mean, just clearing the air, apologizing, making my gentleness known to all men, and then I'm hanging out with somebody from work. He's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, this guy got fired the other day. I guess he just kind of lost it and flipped out and started cussing out this person and this person and this person in front of all these people." At first, I was relieved. It's like, oh, thank God, I don't got to do anything with that guy anymore. I don't have to act nice. And all that did was expose where my heart really was. I didn't want to do anything for him. I would have just done it for lip service to God, which at that point, that's like giving money grudgingly. Doesn't mean anything unless God directly asks you to, and then you do it just 'cause. Then that gives God a whole lot more wiggle room in your life. But so he's gone, so I don't really know what that means as far as straightening things out with him. Probably not much, because I don't know why I would ever see him again. But now I got all the more reason just to be nice from the start. That way I don't have to backtrack. Huh. God puts a lot of emphasis. Well, the standard Jesus used on the Pharisees, that was the same one they were supposed to be using on themselves. They kept excusing themselves from it, and excusing themselves from it, and excusing themselves from it. And all he did was come along and be like, hey, you're putting this standard on other people. Why don't you try it on yourself? Why do you think they wanted to kill him? A standard, especially standards like that, aren't something adjustable and arbitrary and subjective. There was this guy that went out with me last year after tornadoes and helped cut up some trees for people. We were trying to make it a 3-day, 2-night event, just because you don't really plan for tornadoes to hit here during this time, so we can take this time off. We schedule it 3 months in advance. And since it was such short notice, there was already a lot of people scheduled to take vacations, to take time off during this week. So it ended up just being an overnight thing, 2 days, 1 night. And this guy, my buddy, dude, he flipped out. Well, can't these people just give up some of their vacation time? They're just being selfish because we're going out trying to help people, and they can't even bother to just get over themselves and cut some slack so we can get something done, even if they're not doing it themselves. He flipped. So this year, tornado comes along. I get all excited. He was talking about how much fun he had last year and how much it changed him. And I was like, all right, dude, at least I got one person on board with me. It kind of sucks doing it all by oneself. And then he had a couple excuses for why he couldn't make it this time. And that was, there was 1 or 2 or 3 days between the tornadoes here around Tulsa and the one that hit Mississippi that I actually ended up going to. And that one, since that was a ways further away, that was not just going to be a one-night trip. So my boss worked it out that I could go at the end of one week and the beginning of another. So that would be my 2 days off for both weeks. And I was like, oh, all right. And if I can juggle my schedule and swap shifts with this person and with this person, that'd give me a good 5 or 6 days. That's cool. It's perfect. And so I talked to this guy that helped me out the year before. And I was like, hey, man, can we just switch up our schedule just so I can get a head start on going over there and helping out? And he was like, well, that's really just my one day off with my wife, and then I got to go over here and work, and then I don't have another day off for like 2 more days after that, and I just, no. And that, to be honest, dude, that just irked me. I don't know what the fine line is between selfish hypocrisy and religious hypocrisy, but uh, I don't have one. I don't know if I should or not. I feel like I need one, but that just irked me. I called him out on it when I got back. I didn't talk to him for a few days after I got back just because I was still pretty upset. So then it's just me and him off. He's doing one thing, I'm doing another, and then there's nobody else around. I was like, hey, dude, I'm not pissed at you, right? He's like, well, you haven't talked to me for like a week. I was like, well, yeah, that's because you're being a hypocrite and selfish, and I don't know why you had to be like that. He's like, well, I'm not going to apologize for that much. So, all right. Something about setting a standard, which is what he did last year by throwing a fit about those people. But he couldn't apply that same standard to himself this year. So this guy, this other friend of mine, he was needing some help with the project over the weekend, and I told him I was game, cool, whatever. I don't mind chipping in, learn some stuff. So then I was trying to recruit a couple other guys from work. I was like, hey, we're gonna have a party doing this and this and this over at this guy's house. And then one guy was like, well, I don't know how to do that, and the weekend is really my only time with my wife, and blah blah blah. So, all right, dude, whatever. I'd be more surprised if you actually showed up anyway. And then, I guess 3 or 4 days later, this was just yesterday, I think. Yeah. The same guy is telling the buddy that I was helping. He's like, hey, man, we got to get together for a beer before you leave town. And my buddy's like, dude, I ain't going to have any time. So then this same coworker comes up to me. I was walking by. He's like, hey, we got to get together with this guy for a beer before he skips town. I was like, dude, when's he going to have time? He's like, that's what he said too, but he's going to be moving and we're not going to see him ever again. We got to make time, man. I'm getting paid Thursday. We'll just have to go out for a beer, have some fun, catch up, say our goodbyes. I was like, hey, if he would have had some help over the weekend and got caught up on some projects, he would have had some time. But you were too busy with your wife to help then, and now you're not too busy to go out for a beer now? He just kind of looked down, walked away. Standards. Stuff like that, man. It's not subjective. I think it was somewhere in the Old Testament. I didn't know where I was going, so I didn't know which references to have. But I think it was God talking to the Israelites. He's like, hey, out of your own mouth, this is what's going to happen. You said it. What hurts the most is when God points out when there's times that I've been a hypocrite. And that is, I think the religious hypocrite's the worst. And it just, It's like giving myself a cheap shot when God points that out. But at least I'm learning to have as much mercy and grace as He's got for me. One important thing to remember, I've been saying it for, it seems like every single talk, every time I get on here and run off at the mouth. It's like I got to emphasize the importance of just simplicity of heart and innocence and humility just between you and God, nobody else. God gets you like nobody else does. So how is it fair for anybody else to tell you how to approach God, how to talk to God? They can make suggestions, guidelines, explain how they did it, try and help. But your relationship with God is going to be different. And God's got standards. Let's not get weird about it. But just like way back in Jesus' day, Jesus had to cut through all the crap that the religious leaders just kind of kept piling on to the Word of God. And yeah, the Old Testament was full of do's and don'ts because those people were dead inside. Since we're not, we're a little better off. And yet, we're still trying to jump through these fiery hoops for the entertainment of the carnies of church leadership. And it's a game that we're not really, well, it's a game that's rigged. It's not meant to win. Their standards, if they're not pointing you to God, if they're not standing aside from God and looking at you, giving you a chance to look at God and being encouraging about you moving forward, sometimes encouragement hurts because it's about cutting the fat. Don't forget that. If they're standing in the way of you and God, they shouldn't be in leadership. Well, yes, but I'm mentoring this person. If they end up looking just like you, you're in God's way. Simple as that. There's a couple people from church that I still talk to occasionally, and I get to be their technical support sometimes. So I was sitting there. They just got a new computer, so I was just getting their operating system set up, getting all their old stuff, or getting all their stuff off their old computer onto their new one. Just it takes time. So we were just sitting there chatting. And she was talking about, well, I think I'm called to this and this, but I'm not sure because I don't act like this person or this person that I know is called to that. Who cares if you don't look like them? What's God having you do? You're trying to fit a mold that's meant for somebody else. I mean, yeah, maybe this person's an intercessor. So what? Why do you have to look like them? Why can't God doesn't do cookie cutter stuff. You are the mold. I am the mold. And God's the one that fills us up. And we're a part of Jesus Christ. He's the head, we're the body, We all get along. Well, when that happens, we'll all get along. It's not about looking a certain way and acting a certain way, doing things a certain way, following a certain protocol and a to-do list because this is my call. No, that's not it. Not at all. It's, hey, this is my heart, man. God just sets me on fire when this happens, when I get a chance to do this and this. This is what I want to do. This is what God's empowering me to do. This is what I'm going to do. If it's only a matter of finding encouragement from other people that are doing the same thing, cool. But if it's a matter of us trying to cope with our insecurities by trying to act like this person or that person, that ain't right. Then we're losing sight of God and who we're supposed to be. Well, I guess that's it. I feel like I hit a wall, so I guess it's time to stop. Just don't forget that people are supposed to be doing their best to give you the purest picture of God that they can muster, and not through them. You shouldn't have to be looking through somebody to find God. You ought to be able to look ahead, see this person over here, be like, hey, you're doing good, man, keep on coming. And then you just look straight ahead. And then you see God, where God's bringing you. Yeah, well, love you guys. Guess guess we'll talk again in a couple weeks. Yeah, peace.